there, and welcome back to SOS Stories of Survivors, where survival sparks the soul. I'm Serina Dansker, your host, and joining me today is Jessie Spellman. She's the force behind Recess Grove. It's a sanctuary in Brooklyn that has given people an opportunity to find healing through play. I'm so excited for her to share her story today. Welcome, Jessie.
Thank you, Serena. I'm happy to be here.
What a great concept. I am just so engrossed in what you do, and I'm feeling like we really need to get your story out there. So, why don't we start way back from the beginning and talk about you a little bit, what your background is, where you grew up?
Sure. I spent most of my childhood right outside of New York City. Although I was born in New York City and identify strongly as a New Yorker, and pretty much as far back as I can remember, I've been passionate about race and social justice. I don't know why, but it's always been my special interest. And it wasn't until I really got to college that I really began to investigate and get curious about why the world was set up the way it is. So I studied something called urban studies, which was a sociological and economic approach to looking at American cities and the built
Mm.
environment. And I parlayed that into my first career, which was as a middle school math teacher. And during that time, I always say that I learned two big things. Number one, it wasn't the best use of the unearned advantages of my identity because I was teaching in West Philly. I wasn't from that neighborhood. I didn't grow up in that neighborhood. And 100% of my students were Black and 90% were white women. 90% of the teachers were white women like me. And it didn't feel like I was really in a place where I could enact change at the scale that I believed possible. Which brings me to the second thing I really learned during that experience, which is I felt that there were other ways to attack these seemingly intractable problems in a space like public education. And so I spent a while in management consulting working for the world's largest organizations on different transformations, including operating model, organizational redesign. And throughout that time, I still really felt called to doing work that centered people's humanity and that enabled people to live their best lives. And honestly, after a decade of doing that work, I felt really disempowered and disillusioned with a environment where humans were not the center of the work that we did. Human well-being and things that make people thrive were not the main focus of the work that I was doing. And I felt really disillusioned by that. I
Yeah,
mentioned that I've always been really passionate about equality and justice. And
yeah,
unfortunately, the business world does not prioritize those
no,
things.
no.
And so it if I were to sort of skip ahead to today, I now have two incredible business partners, one of whom I'm married to, and the other one is my husband's best friend from college. But we all three of us have backgrounds in more traditional corporate roles, and we all sort of individually rediscovered ourselves and became really passionate and sort of came alive again once
So,
we started creating.
I want to hold that because I want to build up to that because you've got such an interesting life, Jesse. I mean, you grew up in, New York and on the skirts of New York City. You are passionate and it shows. You can feel the energy off you with people, and somehow you ended up in corporate America where the most important thing is the almighty dollar. And I get that, and that's good. I understand that. But what I really would love to know too is what role models did you have as a child growing up? I know you were really close with your mom, and I know your mom was a powerhouse all on her own. Can you talk about a little bit about the warrior in her and the role model that she was to you?
Yeah, my mother was a person filled with joy and radiance and light. She was a gatherer of people and an artist in her own right, in the way that she designed the spaces that we spent time in our whole lives, and the really the way that she brought people together. And those are two things that I carry with me every single day in the work that we're doing at Recess Grove, bringing people together around the act of making. And
Absolutely.
I've always looked up to her.
She was really creative and also brilliant,
Yeah.
and a brilliant businesswoman and a great mindset. But can you tell me a little bit about take me back to the time when you first found out that she was diagnosed with cancer. I think there's a story behind that, even that one that was published, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I a long time ago. I was 15.
Yeah.
Yeah, my mother's illness was definitely an unusual journey to how we ultimately lost her. But the first time my mother got sick, she was only 38, so only
Oh,
2 years older than I am now.
wow.
I was 10, turning 11. My sister was 7, turning 8, and uh, you know, our bodies do a lot to disassociate and block out trauma. And I don't remember a lot of things from that time, but the essay that I wrote that was published when I was still a teenager was about how, after my mother was first diagnosed, instead of having the nurses shave her head in the hospital, she made it like a fun salon spa day with me and my sister. And we
Oh,
came home from school and she asked us to give her a haircut, and she made something as miserable and terrifying as chemo kind of fun for her two young girls. And then, we had almost 20 years of relative health before she got sick again. And that second time, everything was unfortunately very vivid. I was a grown up, and she got sick on Christmas Day 2018, and then she passed on February 1st, 2019.
I'm so sorry, Jess.
Thank
I
you.
mean, I know firsthand how grief can take a toll on your mentally, physically, and I know that we all process it differently.
Yeah.
And, during the days, the weeks, the months after someone passes, sometimes you do things that surprise you. Was there anything that surprised you that happened after she passed?
I think it's more recognizing the universality of the experience of grief, and feeling that emotion for the first time. I couldn't help but think of people who lose loved ones, more than one loved one. Or when you think about the displacement that's going on right now in our country, and the violence and the war, I think about how losing my mother at 29 tore me up, completely derailed me. I had to take time off work. I really didn't know how time would go on, and yet that is part of the human experience. It's something that people experience every single day, and always have and always will. And I remember I did a lot. I love to read. And so I did a lot of reading during that time. I read The Year of Magical Thinking by Joan Didion. I read Unwinding of the Miracle by Julie Yip Williams. And one of the books that I read was Wild by Cheryl Strayed.
Mhm.
I love her work. And I remember the first time I read that book was before I lost my mom, and I thought, oh well, the author, it's a memoir. She starts using heroin, and she leaves her husband, even though she loves him and she's in a good relationship. And you read it without understanding grief, and you think, oh, well, this person must have some other things going on. And then
Mhm.
you experience grief and you realize how completely reasonable those things seem. You the power of this emotion is really well documented
Yeah.
and has been studied. And yet, like menopause, like childbirth, it's one of those things that, even though it happens to almost everybody, we don't really talk about the details. Um, and so I would say that it's not so much that I remember any specific action. It's more that all of the other things that I had heard or read about grief all of a sudden came into much sharper focus and made a lot more sense. And I had so much just honestly gratitude that I had a job and a support system that allowed me to take that time away and just grieve and be with my feelings, because I know that so many people don't have a choice.
Yeah.
They don't have a choice. They have to get up and go back to work and keep going. And I am so grateful that I had the support system that I was able to take that time,
Yeah.
um, to take that time. And as you know, it's also not something that ever really goes away. It's just something you learn to
Yeah.
live with.
That's bingo, right on the head. I mean,
Yeah.
some people, they're just like, oh, I see you out smiling, you must be recover, and I'm like, don't mistake my laughter and my smiles and my joy for me forgetting what I've been through.
Of course.
I'm living my life because I'm still here and we're still with the present, and I know that you've, realized that, grief is like a tidal wave, and sometimes the next wave hits you and you feel like you're drowning, but then suddenly you realize that you're actually treading water and you're doing the best you can to keep your head afloat, and you do have a community and a support staff, and or not a support staff but a support group, your friends, your family, who are there to hold you up when you are drowning. And
Exactly.
I when did you realize that when did, I guess, the spark happen where you know the grief was there surrounding you, but you also realized that there was more, there was something else out there, there was something for you to do.
In the immediate fog of my grief, it was really the strength of my community and my support system that helped.
Yeah.
I had friends show up with food. I had
Mm.
friends show up and just do my laundry. I had people constantly checking in on me, sending me cards and notes and flowers, and really just like reminding me that with time things would get easier. And I think when you're in the midst of it, that's not really helpful to hear.
Yeah.
And it's true. There's an analogy that someone shared with me that stays with me, and I like to share with people about grief, which is grief is like a ball inside of a box. And when you first lose somebody, the ball is almost the entire size of the box that it's inside. And
Mm.
there's a pain button. And the ball is just right up against that pain button the whole time because the ball is so big and you're always in pain. And over time, the ball gets smaller. And so it's not always hitting the pain button. And the ball shrinks and shrinks, but it never goes away. And sometimes the ball hits the pain button again and it feels like it happened yesterday. Um, and so that's what we mean when we say you learn how to live with it, and time makes it better because your life is able to continue on and grow around it. But this fact of what happened and that pain is always with you. And you know, we don't do anything by ourselves. We do nothing alone. And I I I got through that experience because of the people in my life who love and support me. And that is that's really like that's what we owe each other.
Yeah.
And I'm so grateful for my community and how I never, you know, they say grief is love with nowhere to go.
Yeah.
And you that person that you love is no longer there. And so you have to lean on the other people in your life to help you go on and survive the next day, even if it feels impossible at the time.
But then you have to take that love and do something with it to keep that person's memory alive, right?
Yeah.
And that love is almost like fuel, for the things that are within you, that energy, that spark. And it doesn't happen right away, but along with your healing comes growth. And let's talk a little bit about that origin spark. Was there a single interaction that lit the fuse for creating Recess Grove?
I think my journey to creating Recess Grove, my my mother's life and the person that she was and is has been an inspiration for so many things that I've done in my life. And I would say that losing my mother allowed me to be brave enough to define a life that I wanted to live and
Mm,
to go off and do things that I really believed in and that felt more in line with the life that I wanted to live. And so it really the way that she lived her life that was a constant inspiration to me. But I was able to make I was since losing her, I've been able to do so many things that I know she'd be so proud of. But I also see sort of echoes of the way that she lived her life. She was in business with her best friend. I'm in business with my husband and his best friend. She um, had a business in New York City. My business is in New York City. And she really led with her heart. And she was known for being a person that people wanted to spend time around. And we have built a place together that people really want to spend time in and be around. And especially in an era of unprecedented loneliness where
yeah.
people don't even know how to spend time and be together. I really take the lessons that my mom taught me implicitly about what it means to bring people together, what it means to entertain, what it means to encourage people to be authentic with each other and have real meaningful and memorable experiences. That was just the way my mom lived. And I think uh, as most children do, I definitely took it for granted when she was just my mom, because she was just my mom. But I now realize the magic that she brought to
Mhm.
um, all of the people that she always hosted, and that's something that I think we're definitely carrying at Recess Grove, and it's really it's we say that we're a sanctuary for creativity and play,
Yeah.
and that really means that we are a place to make things, to move through our feelings and our emotions through the act of creating. And um, that's something that I always did with my mother. I just didn't have the language for it. The way that we would play dress up, the way that we would always redecorate bedrooms and living rooms and all the rooms in the house. Those were always acts of creating and bringing new worlds to life. And I'm grateful that I can now share those experiences with other people. And I've I've had depression and anxiety since I was 14 or 15, and I always had therapists encourage me to journal or encourage me to meditate, and that always felt inaccessible to me because it felt like another thing on my to-do list. It felt
Yeah.
like, oh, this is more work. This how is this going to help?
Mhm.
And what I've realized now is that journaling really just means putting pen to paper and expressing yourself. And sometimes expressing myself means drawing scribbles. Sometimes it means filling the page with circles. Sometimes it means coloring the entire page in black. And this experience has helped me understand that you have to actually move through your feelings. I say that making art helps me compost them,
Hmm.
and
I love that.
I bring up the journaling. I bring up the journaling element as well because I now keep this journal, and it's not, today is Saturday, July 5th, and I woke up and went there. That didn't work for me. It might work for others, but what worked was, okay, I am feeling things, and so I need to figure out a way to move through them because I don't have words right now,
Yeah.
and um, I'm very grateful for this practice, and it's something that I know is accessible to everybody.
I love that. And the whole thing with the loneliness and talking about that, it hits me hard because I know that my own son, who passed from suicide, he was surrounded by people, but yet he was lonely. And you're right, it's an epidemic in our society. And people don't know how to do that connection. And here you are, you're building a community space, Jess, and in Brooklyn. And this is no easy feat. I mean, you needed permits, rent. I'm sure there were skeptics that said, oh, you can't do that. And talk to me about the biggest, are we really doing this hurdle, and and how you vaulted it, and started this.
Yeah, the real honestly, my husband and his best friend from college hit the ground running with this at the end of 2022. They had always been thinking about starting their own business, and there's a concept in for people who practice their creativity regularly, and the concept is called synchronicity. And synchronicity is, I'm sure you've experienced it. You're thinking about somebody and then they call you.
Mhm.
Or you are really you're really craving something, and then all of a sudden it's a special at the restaurant that you're having dinner at. And these little moments where it seems like it's almost too it's too perfect to just be a coincidence. That's sometimes called synchronicity, and there was a lot of synchronicity with the birth of this idea, because while Corey and Justin, my partners, were meditating on this idea of doing something that was creative, doing something that was a space where people could come and make things with their hands. I, at the same time, on my own, was rediscovering how good it felt to watercolor, teaching myself how to crochet and making things for my nephew and for my family. And at the beginning of 2023, we all sort of sat down, and it wasn't that simple, but in hindsight, that's a little bit how it felt. We all sort of had these ideas, and then honestly, I wasn't sure whether I was going to stay in my. I led a human resources team at the largest company in the largest employer in the country, and I was also feeling really disillusioned, and I decided, you know what? I think it's time to just like bet on myself. I don't have to do things the way that there's more. I can actually do anything. I think you realize when your life is shaken up like that, that you don't have to always follow this pre set out path. And so we we all I've been doing this now full time for a little over a year, and um it's really rewarding and really challenging, and I am really grateful to be able to be my full self and do something day in day out that I really really believe in. And I don't I so for so much of my corporate life, I felt like I had to sort of look the other way or hold my nose
Yeah.
in a lot of the meetings that I were in, because they didn't center. I didn't experience. I haven't experienced organizations that centered humanity and
Right.
human rights and human dignity, and that's baked into everything that we do at Recess Grove, and I'm really grateful.
Mm. That's so, it's so enlightening, and it's so wonderful to hear that you realize that you can pivot, that you can
Yeah,
change. You have free will.
yeah,
It's amazing.
yeah, yeah,
You know,
exactly. Yeah,
and we
and I
lose
find
sight of that,
we
right?
do, yeah, and I find myself telling that to people all the time. People from who I went to graduate school with, just people who come in and they look at us and they're like, "Whoa, like what is this place? Wow!" I mean, every single day, I'm not really exaggerating. Every single day, someone cries because of the like how moved and overwhelmed they are by the
Mm.
space. And people look sometimes, they're like, "Oh, isn't this like your dream job?" And I say, number one, I don't dream of labor. I don't. I dream of being with people I love, eating strawberries
Yeah.
in a field, and as long as I have to do something, I am so grateful that I get to dedicate myself to this in a way that where my time really feels like it's mine, and I feel like I'm able to be my full self. I think so much of my corporate life was felt like an acting job. I felt like I
Yeah.
deserved an Oscar, not a promotion.
Oh, and it's crazy that you say that because so many of us, we put on that face, that mask,
Exactly.
that persona
Yeah,
to get through the day and, fake it till you make it, right?
exactly. Yeah.
And I think that, what you've built here, Recess Grove, its mission, it centers on play for all ages, but it also centers on healing, right?
Yeah.
And how that's connected. Could you talk a little bit about that? I mean, I know you've talked about your own, how it's helped you healing, but just go into a little more detail about how play and creativity is healing for those that are experiencing trauma or loss, and how it's freeing.
There have been tons of books, essays, articles, podcasts, detailing from a like empirical evidence-based research perspective all the different ways that creativity helps us. It helps
Mm.
spark new connections in our brain. It helps us. I use the term compost our feelings.
Yes.
um, and we're seeing a huge increase in art therapy.
Mm.
And there were some of my favorite books on the topic. This is Your Brain on Art, The Creative Act, Find Your Unicorn Space, Beyond Anxiety. And
Mm.
these are just a few titles that go into some of the details around how any act of creativity really is shown to, in an evidence-based way, to help improve your overall health and well-being. And even beyond all the research and the data, something that we like to say at Recess Grove too is that you're allowed to do something fun because it feels good. I think a
Yes.
lot of times we don't give ourselves permission to just enjoy. I have to remind people, I have to remind adults all the time, I'm not going to grade you on whatever it is you're making here. You're not going to get a performance review.
Mm.
If you end up in MoMA, I'll come visit, but that's not the goal. You're not
Right.
here to be in a museum. And so much of how we live, we're asked to constantly sort of prove or justify our existence.
Mm.
Even our hobbies, we're asked to monetize or make into a side hustle. And when we say that we're a sanctuary for creativity and play, that's an invitation to just be.
Yes.
Just showing up and just being is enough. And so when it comes to art and creativity, I talked about the scribbles in a journal. Um, when little kids take out crayons and markers and pens and they talk to you about what they're drawing and it
Yeah.
doesn't look like anything to you, but you can tell they're really engrossed, that's because, as you know, kids know things.
Yeah.
And they know and they understand inherently that human beings, we're all artists. We all have that in us.
Yes.
Whether it's through the breakfast that we decide to make for ourselves or our family, that might be your way of creativity. Um, maybe you like to crochet or knit like I do. Maybe you like to make music.
Right.
And maybe you make music for yourself. Singing in the shower, a song that you made up counts. Give yourself
Right.
credit for that. Um, and I think it's really really hard in a world that is so relentless and expects so much of us.
Mm.
But allowing yourself even 5 minutes a day to just create something for no reason, for no
Right.
reason other than you're enjoying it and it's fun, I have found to be one of the most revolutionary and transformational things that I've ever done
Mm.
in my life. And I know that it's accessible and available to everybody. And something that's beautiful about it too is you really, this element of making things, but also the element of community and doing things next to other
Yes.
people. Because a lot of times it's so hard to give ourselves permission. Well, it's even harder if you're not surrounded by people that are sort of encouraging you.
Yes.
And whatever it is, and I keep talking about creativity and I mentioned the example of cooking or the example of soft fiber crafts. But Recess Grove is really, we're talking about being a sanctuary for creativity and play. And we're not emphasizing all of the paint supplies and collage supplies. And I'm not even talking about our entire woodworking studio, because we know that those are just ways to bring this philosophy that art makes us whole to life. And
Yes.
um, you might love something that I don't love, but I love that you love it. And I'm thinking of, we had this person come in, and he really didn't feel that he could do anything. He's like, I have no creativity. We put
Huh.
a ball of clay in front of him, and he made the most detailed, incredible golf course with all of these different traps. And it was so intricate. And I really don't like golf at all. I don't have anything nice to say about golf. And it was so incredible and beautiful to see somebody light up about what they loved, and to
Yes.
see somebody find that spark for themselves. And that's really what we are doing, is helping everybody find their own path, and recognizing the path that makes Jessie light up is different than the path that makes Serina light up. And that
Yeah.
is great. And also, by the way, we can still do that together. We can still sit around the table while you're working on your beaded jewelry and you're doodling. And we also have a cafe, so we can have a glass of wine too if you want.
Oh, I love it.
But we're coming to the table, really connecting over real physical things and moving through those feelings. And um, it's a really cool thing to forget to look at your phone for a few hours. It's definitely rare in this day and age.
Oh, you're not kidding. That's it, it's so, I see you light up when you talk about it. And I love it. I can feel the energy. I can feel the enthusiasm.
Thank
And
you.
I was going to ask you, about stories about people coming in. Cause I know, like, sometimes I'll do those wine and painting classes, and I'm so critical of myself because I'm not a painter by trade.
Yeah,
And then after a while, I'm just like, you know what? I'm just gonna have fun, and I'll start a little paint on my nose and on my friend's nose, and just have fun with it, and
yeah,
just remember why you're doing it, and give yourself grace, and I
yeah,
think it's so important,
yeah, yeah,
and I love it. I do. I really love it. And I guess, I know community can be messy, you're in the midst of Brooklyn, and can can you talk about a moment when things almost maybe fell apart, and the decisions you've made to that, Recess Grove's heartbeat has got to keep beating, you're going to hold it steady, and what was the push to do that?
yeah. The running Opening a brick and mortar business with your spouse and their best friend is really challenging. And so and we are doing so much, and it's really just the three of us.
Mm,
We have a couple of incredible young artists who support us, but the decision making, the strategy, the planning, our entire calendar of events, that's all just the three of us. And so it's really, really, really hard. We're exhausted. We've never worked so much in our lives. And what keeps it going is our belief in the place. We know that it's necessary. We know that it is already impacting the people who have stepped through the space.
mm.
And I mentioned that people cry almost every day when they come in.
Yeah.
People also come in almost every day and thank us for existing.
Mm.
It still feels a little surreal. We look at ourselves sometimes, and we're so tired, we're so cranky, we don't know how we're going to keep going, and then somebody comes in and says, wow, thank you so much for existing. What can I do to help? Who can I tell? How can I continue to get the
Mm.
word out? And so um, seeing how moved people are from just being in this space is really like all the motivation we need to keep going. And we've been told we're the most wholesome place in New York City. We've been told we're the most calm and soothing place in New York City.
Mm.
And we don't take that lightly. New York
No.
is a really unique and cuckoo place, and we're really grateful for the community that we're building. Even though it's messy, even though it's really hard,
Yeah.
it's nothing. nothing worth having comes easy.
No.
And we're grateful, especially the, I started off this conversation by talking about how passionate I am about
Yeah.
human rights, and I always have been. And in a time as uncertain and as heart-wrenching as this time is,
Yes.
it is so heartening to be able to work towards and build something that I believe in so strongly and that I believe is so human centered.
And
Um,
the impact that you're having on people.
yeah,
Can you talk a little bit about like some of the classes and some of the like let's maybe go through 1 week of at Recess Grove, what you offer people. I think it's fascinating.
yeah, thank you. Yeah, so we hopefully, it's come across clearly that we believe that the creative act is something that anyone can do and that it can be part of your regular daily lives in whatever way works for you. And that is how we've designed Recess Grove, to meet you wherever you are in your creative journey so that you can find your own creative path. And so the front part of the physical space that we're in, we call it our counter, and it's this beautiful curved countertop. It's made entirely from one single ash tree that
Wow.
we kiln dried and cut into slabs, and
Yourself?
then
You did all
we
this?
did all the work ourselves in the space. Yes.
Oh my
We're
gosh.
totally, yes, it was totally crazy. And we hand planed the entire surface, and then we tiled the entire front of the bar. And so you walk into this, really unique bar. I haven't seen a bar like it. That's really sort of sculpted out of this piece of, you know, 300-year-old wood. And the bar is designed with these curves to really invite you to slow down the second you walk in.
Mhm.
And we have a cafe right up front and at the counter. So you can think of it like coffee shop by day, wine bar by night. And it's filled with all of these creative prompts and games, coloring books, activity books,
Mhm.
colored pencils, and paper. So you're really encouraged as soon as you sit down to grab something and start playing. We also have friendship bracelets and origami. So there's a lot of nostalgia as well.
Mm.
People are always grabbing things and saying, "Oh, I haven't seen this since I was a kid." And it immediately encourages you to play. Not only to play, but I mentioned that the bar has these curves. So you're also sitting next to people, and in a way that encourages conversation, as opposed to
Mm.
a traditional bar that's just straight up and
Great.
down, and you don't
Yeah.
really know who's at the other end. And so that's just the front part. So always walk in, grab a cup of coffee, grab a glass of wine, grab a snack, and hang out at the front. All those art supplies are just part of the experience up front at the
Mm.
counter. We also do classes and events. So most of our classes and events take place in the studio, which is just beyond the sort of the curtains in the physical space. And then we have a whole art studio with tables that we made by hand and art supplies ranging from, I talked about them already a little bit, but tons of drawing supplies, sculpting supplies, collage supplies, fiber, mixed media. And you can also walk in and use the studio. You can get a studio session. Or I talked a little bit about the classes and events. You could attend one of those. And so mostly so tons of chances for you to just casually walk in and start creating, or you can sign up for classes. We usually do Learn To classes on Mondays and Tuesdays. And then we have different events that happen every single week. So every Wednesday, we have a soft craft circle called Knit, Hook, and Stitch. So if you
Mhm.
crochet, you knit, you embroider, you come, you hang out, you work on your project. And then we also will do clinics during those meetups where we teach the basic skills like mending, how to fix holes in your clothes, how to sew on buttons, how to
Wow.
darn socks, things like that. And that's every Wednesday. And then every Thursday we do sort of like a creative happy hour. They're called studio socials. And so from 4 to 7, we pick one media to focus on during that week. And we set up a couple stations and everyone's just sort of hanging out after work over arts and crafts. And then Friday, we host an event every Friday that actually happens in that front part of the space, that counter I talked about. And that's called Mural and Mingle. And every Friday, we paint the entire wall in the front of the space white. We pick out a color palette, we pick out a theme, and everyone just sort of contributes to that wall. And then we have this piece of public art that's up for a week. And then on Fridays, we paint the wall white and we start all over again.
I love that.
And then
Wow.
Saturdays are usually lots of people are coming in for those studio sessions that I talked about. People love to have birthday parties, baby showers, bridal showers.
Mm.
Um, Tons of parties in the space. And if there isn't a party going on, sometimes we also do classes on Saturday afternoons. And then Sundays are for the garden. So Sundays, we have our gardening series. We have a garden in the back. We teach propagation. We teach seed starting. We also teach a class called cyanotype, which is a special type of screen printing using the power of
Mm.
the sun. And so that's why it
Yes.
happens in the garden, because we use sunlight to expose the film. And then Mondays, Tuesdays, we go back to those learn to classes. So learn how to watercolor, learn how to leathercraft. And then the rest of the week is sort of set up with these regularly occurring social events that give you a chance to play, but also to practice what you've learned.
Wow, that is just awesome. And it's adult only. I just want to clarify
Yeah,
that
yeah,
you
yeah.
know,
It's
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 it's for
it's geared
you.
towards it's exactly. It's the way that we've been saying it is like we to be a sanctuary, we love young people, but as
Yeah.
any parent of young
Yeah.
people knows, sanctuary doesn't usually go with young people. And
Mhm.
so if we're trying to be a sanctuary for creativity and
Yeah.
play, we are focused on people who are older, and we want to open up to younger people. We really, really know that there's a ton of opportunity there too. And we felt it was really important to start with grown-ups, because
They need it.
we deserve recess too. We deserve a
Yeah.
break, and we really want to center that experience before we say, okay, bring over the kids too, because
Yeah.
there are so few places that are really geared towards um, giving adults a chance to play.
Yes, especially with all of us having the anxiety and depression and
Yeah,
loneliness. It's such a great way. Okay, question for you.
yeah,
Letter to your past self.
yeah,
If you could whisper
yeah,
one sentence to Jessie, maybe on the day of your mom's funeral, what would it
yeah.
be?
Time will make it easier,
Mm.
and you will get through this.
Mm.
Um, I remember I had there was a friend who really was there for me during that immediate time, and she had lost her mother when she was in her early 20s. And
Mm.
she kept telling me that. She's like, I
Yeah.
promise, like, it will get easier. And you
Yeah.
don't, when someone tells you that, you don't believe them,
No.
understandably. And it isn't helpful at the time necessarily, but there's also something universal in having to sit with pain and having to experience the pain, and you know remind yourself that it will pass. And it doesn't mean that there isn't going to be more challenges ahead, but there's definitely, I think, something universal in that reminder of breathe, breathe through it and give yourself time, and
Mm.
it will get better. Because I definitely, it was hard for me to see how that would get better, how it would get easier. And I have to say as well, for me personally, the fact that my mother died in 2019, and
Yeah.
then we entered the global pandemic,
Yeah.
in a sense that actually I think accelerated my grieving process, because all of a sudden the whole world was grieving too.
Yeah.
And so I almost felt, I was like, "Oh, I'm not alone. Like
No.
everybody's going through this now too." And so that definitely gave me perspective, and helped me in my healing process.
I totally can feel that and I get that with you because in my grief too, it's hard, you're going through so much and but then I realized, we all have things in our lives, burdens or things that we're getting through and everybody is different. But it's we all share that thought, that trauma, to try and heal, and we all help each other. And I totally get what you're saying about, just you got to give yourself grace, you got to give yourself time and sit with it, and it'll never, go away. You don't get
No,
over it, but you learn to live with it. You
you
do,
do. You
you
do.
know.
Yeah.
And if you could look forward, let's say 10 years to your future self, what do you hope that future Jessie is thanking you for today?
Doing the hard things that you don't always want to do. Um, it's especially going from such a corporate lifestyle to then working for myself and working with my spouse. Um, you you're like, and the first feeling I have is, oh my god, I'm free. I'm
Mm,
free. I don't. No one owns my time. I own my time,
yes.
um, which is so empowering and so incredible. And in many ways, it's a lot. There's a lot more to do, and that is. I'm doing it every single day for the 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 way that I know I'm going to feel in 10 years. And I know that I will be so appreciative for the fact that I am hosting 4 back-to-back parties with over 100 people on a single day. And oh, by the way, that's just Saturday. And then I do the same thing Sunday. And then on and
That
on and
sounds like
on.
so
And
much
then,
fun.
yeah, so much fun. And then I'm teaching leathercraft, and then I'm teaching crochet, and then I'm teaching water, and then and everywhere. And but I know that I know it's just the beginning, and we're just getting the flywheel going. And
Yes.
I know I will be I will be grateful, even though sometimes it feels like, what the heck am I doing? And
Oh,
I'm all I can do is wake up every day and do it, and do the best I can.
and that's so true. That's all you can do.
Yeah.
And I gotta ask, what's your wildest pie in the sky vision for spreading the Groves model beyond Brooklyn?
Oh, I think Recess Grove is would do wonderfully anywhere that people want it. And
Yeah.
we've met people from all over the country and all over the world who are asking, us, how can we do something similar in our neighborhood, or when can you come to our neighborhood and bring this space and this experience. And so we want to be wherever people want us. That's my pie in the sky vision, is that not only is Recess Grove in every neighborhood and community where there's a demand for it, but that the spirit of creativity helps us build a better world for everybody. The secret to change isn't fixing the old; it's building the new, and that's what creativity
Mm.
allows us to do. It allows us to bring new worlds to life and imagine new and different and better ways of doing things. That's the spirit of creativity. And I think the world needs a lot more healing and a lot
Yes.
more creativity right now.
Oh my God. If your mom could walk through the doors tomorrow,
Yeah.
what's the first activity you'd insist on doing together in that space that she inspired?
I would love to watercolor with her. Um,
Mm.
I think she'd really love it, and I think she'd be amazing at it. I love watercolor. I find it a really soothing and relaxing thing. And I don't I don't like to draw or paint things in a photorealistic way. That's not my style of creating. I like to do more with what feels good. And so I end up creating these really intricate, like, shapes and lines and dots and circles. And
Oh, I can feel
I
that.
could
I like
see
that.
I could see my mom loving that too. And I could see her teasing me for, some of the other, like, habits and things that I think are fun, that she's, like, I love to crochet, and I could see her teasing me that it's like a grandma activity. But I think she'd like it too. So I would love to play with her.
Oh
But
my gosh. All
yeah,
right. Well, I'm going to lighten it up a little bit. I'm going to ask you some rapid fire questions. Like,
sure.
what was your favorite playground game as a kid?
Oh, probably the swings. I love the swings.
Mm, I could see that. A song that instantly lifts your mood.
Freedom by John Baptiste.
Mm. How about your Brooklyn comfort food go to? Your the go-to food you go
Oh
for.
yeah, there's this place near Recess Grove called the Commodore. It's a dive bar that's been around forever, and they have amazing fried chicken sandwiches, uh, which we get at least once a week.
That's awesome. And one word that your mom used that you still hear in your head.
Oh, I have way more than one. She would always say that she would always make us a snickle, which was her word for snack, and noopy, which was her word for nap.
Oh, that's
And,
funny.
sometimes when you do something that's kind of a little bit haphazard or thrown together, but it works, it's called a schmay. And I
I
also
love
have
it.
that in my head too. She had all these words that she made up.
Oh my God. And finish the sentence. Grief taught me.
Resilience.
Mm, that is so beautiful. And
Thank you.
if listeners remember only one thing from your story, Jess,
Yeah.
what do you want that to be? And then I also how they can reach you.
Yeah. You're more powerful than you've ever even thought you could imagine,
Mm,
and that this one's really important, that we do nothing alone. I think part of the loneliness that we see comes from this false narrative of independence, that you have to be independent and do things on your own, and I don't that isn't true. We don't do anything by ourselves. We need each other, and that's part of the beauty of life that makes it worth living. So you remember your power, and remember to lean on your loved ones to help you realize that power.
I love that. And how do they reach
Oh,
you
you
and
can
Recess
reach me.
Group?
Please come to Recess Grove to hang out. We're in Williamsburg, Brooklyn, 10 minutes from the Bedford L, the Metropolitan G, or the Marcy Avenue JM trains. You can find us online at recessgrove.com, or on Instagram at recess, or in TikTok at Recess Grove, And please follow along. And we encourage people to move slow and make things. Um,
Oh,
and so, yeah.
I love that. And I close out every show with a poem for my son. And he wrote one that I think is so fitting for Recess Grove. And it's called Camp. I gotta put
Mm,
my glasses on, I gotta read it, but I think you'll feel it.
I'm sure I
Uh,
will.
he wrote, as I look around myself, I feel so compelled to smile and hug. The vibrations and energy coming off others, causing a chain reaction that factions the results of happiness. Happiness is different for everyone and anyone, but all people conjugate you, the source of power that people associate. Love, kindness, smiles, and hugs, even though there are so many bugs. Camp is a place where anyone can be anything, but most are true to themselves. Camp is a place where people's true colors are shown, where people accept others for who they are, not who they know. Camp is a place to learn from others and not just stick to yourself. The concept of acceptance is easy to grasp, but not to execute. Most people just reboot, go back to the lines that society draws for them. Most people can't comprehend how a few nice words can mend a broken soul that almost feel off the deep end. Can't people know this? And now you do. Spread the word to stop the impending doom that so many souls see so soon.
That's
Crazy,
really,
right?
it's
I
really
mean,
beautiful.
it's that feeling that you get. And I can't
It's really
thank you
beautiful.
enough, Jessie,
Thank you.
for joining us and sharing Recess Grove with
Thank
us.
you.
I mean, I can't wait to take a class there. And I'm to our listeners, please stop by Recess Grove in Brooklyn or go to their website, recessgrove.com. And please feel free to share. my episodes or like them, and donations are always welcome. And remember, SOS, Stories of Survivors, where survival sparks the soul. Thank you and God bless. Appreciate you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.